Three, two, one, crack. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you know that sound means it's time for another episode of A Beer and Review.
So pour it high and let it gleam. This is the podcast, Sip and Dream. Stay for the fun, we've got more to do. Oh yeah, it's A Beer and Review.
That is right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 127 of A Beer and Review, where the movies are spoiled and the beer is fresh. This week we are drinking Trailhead Canyon Pilsner, and we have watched Apex, the 2026 film. I am your host this week, Layne Good, and usually I am joined by two of my best buddies, Keith Fuchs and Luke Walker. But you guys that are watching the video will see that is not the case. We are doing something a little different. We are doing a solo show this week. So please give me a little bit of grace. I'm out here trying to keep this thing together. We want to make sure you guys have an episode this week. So it's going to be a lot of me talking about this movie. So strap in. I'm excited to chat with everyone. But until we do, we need to start with our ceremonial swig. Cheers to me and cheers to everyone out there listening. So again, this is a solo show this week, but we're going to try and keep it the same. We're going to do what you've been watching. We're going to do all the fun stuff, the character draft, even though it's just going to be me talking about all the characters. So I want to go ahead and dive into it because I have decided to do something fun and I'd like to share it with the world. I was born in the year of our Lord, 1991. And there's been a lot of movies that have come out in those last 35 years, and a lot of them I haven't seen. So what I decided to do is I have created a list of all the movies that I would like to see from those years. Originally, it was going to be one movie per year, but that just didn't work. You know, there's 93 where you have, goodness, what is it? It's like Saving Private Ryan and Philadelphia and Schindler's List. They're all right in there in the early 90s. So I was like, if I'm doing this and I'm watching all these movies that I feel like I need to watch, I can't just do one movie per year. So the list is 70 movies that I'm trying to get through, hopefully in 2026, but that is a lot of movies. We'll see how I do. Some of the things on there, as I mentioned, I already said Schindler's List, Philadelphia, Primal Fear, Boogie Nights, Catch Me If You Can, A History of Violence, A Blood Diamond. We've already talked about The Social Network a few times on the podcast, Baby Driver, The Brutalist. I never saw that a few years ago when it was nominated for Best Picture, and Adrian Brody won. And then the movie from this year so far, 2026, is Send Help, which is pretty similar to kind of this movie, I think, maybe, that we watched this week, Apex. But the movie I have watched so far, I've crossed it off my list. It's the first of 70 on this list, was Backdraft. It's a 1991 movie starring Kurt Russell and Billy Baldwin, and Robert De Niro, which was a little strange to see him in that age and in that time period, and being the 90s. But it's an interesting Chicago firefighter story. I really enjoyed the dynamic between the brothers. It ended a little weird, spoilers, where Kurt Russell's character dies at the end, and he dies from kind of a minimal accident. It didn't seem like it was a severe or fatal injury, but I mean, you got casket and salute and a parade to end the movie. So very good watch. It's interesting to go back and watch those movies from the 90s because they're just so different, and I'll drink to that. Oh, additionally, if there's some quiet parts in the podcast, it's because I'm taking drinks. This is called The Beer and Review after all. So that's what I've been watching, Backdraft. And I did start, and the next movie on my list is Barton Fink. It's a Coen Brothers movie, so I will let you guys know my thoughts on that next week. Again, we are drinking Trailhead Canyon Pilsner. Oh, sorry, and you can see I got a new camera set up if you watch the video version here. But Trailhead Canyon Pilsner out of, Tenaya Creek Brewery down in Las Vegas. So our brothers down south provided us with the beer for this week. So let's get on. I think Trailhead Canyon's obvious if you've seen the movie, why it's related to the beer, because it's about this hiker lady, and we'll get into all that now. This is, again, a 2026 film directed by, I'm going to absolutely butcher this, so I'm sorry to everyone out there, Balatsar Cormacher. He did recently a movie that I remember, Beast. That was the one with Idris Elba, where he's a lion's like hunting him the whole movie. And then he did a famous movie for the podcast, Two Guns, with Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington. Apparently, he did a movie called Everest, so another climbing movie, which seems this guy's kind of into. This was written by a gentleman named Jeremy Robbins. And I mentioned that because this was his first full-length movie, at least according to my brief research. This movie stars Charlize Theron. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I'm not a professional. I'm just a dude who likes movies. This plays Sasha. And then we have Taron Egerton, Ben. And then we have Eric Bana for about 5 minutes there at the beginning before he, spoilers, dies. This is a rated R movie. And thankfully, this is coming in at about an hour 30, or not an hour 30, 135 minutes, excuse me. No, hour 35, that's right. Not an hour, 135 minutes. I would have killed myself. Hour 35. Award winner, spoilers, probably not. So before we get into anything else, before we start talking about the in-depth things of the flick, we need to start with the first thing, and that is Layne loves first scenes. So we're going to talk a little bit about the opening of the movie and kind of what I thought and how it kind of blasts you off into the rest of the flick. So we get introduced to Sasha and her husband, boyfriend character, Ben. And it's an interesting opening to a character because they are scaling a mountain. I believe it's Mount Troll or something like that. Troll Wall. It's a real place in Norway that they're ascending. And they are in a tent literally on the side of the mountain, which, my God, if you're going to start a movie there, that's a pretty good, tense place to start a movie. But they do a pretty good job of starting it casually. They're sleeping in a sleeping bag, and you don't really know that they're on the side of the mountain until she opens up her tent, and it's like, oh shit, that is unbelievable. We do get some information about the characters in the very beginning of the movie. She's taping up her fingers, getting ready for the climb, and then we hear the alarm clock go off, so we know that she's dedicated, she's antsy, she's ready to go. She's on top of it, she's a pro. And then we get Eric Bana's character, who is a little bit more hesitant. He's enjoying sleeping in. He's kind of taking his time, and we get the Netflix thing right away in this movie. We talked about it during the rip, where they're going to reemphasize character traits and plot points and who people are constantly throughout the movie. And I think especially in these first 5 minutes, Eric Bana's character really, really reiterates that she needs to take her time and slow down. She's in a rush. Quit rushing, slow down. It's like, okay, man, we get it. As we're getting to the top, she can't quite hit this climb. She wants to do it. She wants to do it. She's stubborn. She cannot do it. So another character trait that we learn about her. And then obviously we have a storm come in. Things are getting sketchy. You can tell exactly what's going to happen in the beginning of this movie. Eric Bana says, my lunky compass, not compass, which is weird, but compass is telling me that we need to go down the hill. My luck's run out. They start making their way down, and then storm hits, avalanche. Eric Bana's character falls down. She catches him. She's holding on to him. But obviously, just like every movie where this happens, he's bringing them both down. And so she has to make the decision. Do I let this person that I assume she loves go, or do I let him carry us both down? She decides to drop him. We see him drop to his death. It's, kind of dark, dreadful. Like, they do a really good job of building that tension and building that dread. It's not cool. And then the one thing that, they usually don't do this in movies, but immediately after she drops him, her rope kind of catches loose. And it's like, oh shit, see, she would have been dead. I like when movies kind of leave it ambiguous. Like, hey, he might have taken them both down, but we don't know because she dropped him. So in this movie, obviously, it does the opposite, where it says, nope, she for sure would have died if she did not drop him. So I thought it was a really awesome opening to a movie. Again, if you're going to set your movie on the edge of a cliff, where anything can happen, and obviously we see that things do happen because the love interest or the boyfriend husband character falls off and dies. So very good, tense opening, and I thought it was awesome. So I've been talking a little bit about characters, and thankfully it's just me on the show because there are about 2 characters in this movie. So usually we do a character draft where we discuss our favorite characters and why we like them and all that good stuff. But it's just me this week, and there are really just two characters to discuss in this movie. I'm going to start with my personal favorite, who is Ben. He kind of plays the antagonist, this psycho dude. I really haven't discussed too much of what the overall plot is, but he is our big bad, and he does a great job of doing so. He's a completely evil, creepy dude, unlike any other thing we've seen from Taron Egerton. So I really enjoyed the character of Ben. Absolute wild maniac. I'm excited to talk about him a little bit more into some of the specifics. The other character that we have is Sasha, again played by Charlize Theron, and she is our lady from the beginning who dropped her love interest, and she is, as I mentioned, steadfast, ready to go, badass, ultimate climber. She's jumping off things, she's kayaking, she does a little bit of everything really well. She's got her sweet, sprinter van that she cruises around in. She is the ultimate badass. She doesn't know when to say no. She likes things difficult and the hard way, and she likes the climb, just like the song that Miley Cyrus sang. So, a very good character, I'd say. There are some negatives. I think they, especially at the beginning, man, they throw a lot of, this girl can do anything in the world, and she is the best at everything. Watch out. We learn a little bit about that later, but I was like, man, okay, let's see where this goes. And so obviously, let's get into the plot here, because those are our two characters, and they're about to go on a journey, I guess, for lack of a better word. So after the death of Eric Bana, she's pretty torn up, as we all would be, and she decides to go to a fictional village in Australia. I don't remember exactly what it's called. And she goes to the sheriff's office, and sees, oh my goodness, there's a bunch of missing people. Surprise, surprise, hint, hint. She's gonna, she could potentially be one of these missing people. She signs in on some registry book because we like to know where you are, which weird, and spoilers, it's one of the reasons that she gets put in this whole mess. After that, she's going to pick up supplies, and that's when she has her first encounter with Ben. And I think one thing that Ben does a really good job of in Taron Egerton is being this nice guy, or very likable, sweet dude who makes his homemade beef jerky and is really willing to help strangers and give directions and just be an overall good guy, and even protect Charlize Theron from creeps, which obviously is pretty funny because he turns out to be the creep himself. So yeah, she runs into some creeps at the gas station. Ben jumps in, saves the day, earns her trust, and he gives her the hiking recommendation that she goes on. And thankfully she goes on it, because then Ben gets to hunt her. So Charlize Theron obviously takes Ben's advice and goes down this cool path, this cool trail. And it's all by design. Ben is a bad guy. We find out about 30 minutes into the movie. While Charlize Theron is sleeping, he steals her pack that she had, put up in the trees to keep, it's hiker stuff. You guys get it. You know what I'm talking about. So he steals her bag, and then he does his first and very excellent to wake up Charlize Theron and just be an absolute psycho. Some people in movies have their kind of evil quirk. I guess his caca is his, and this is the first time that we get it. Wakes her up from her slumber. She goes out to try and find her bag. It's not there. She happens to stumble upon Ben's camp. Maybe he's not too far. Maybe she smelled whatever Ben was cooking, but she finds his camp. Oh my goodness, I can't believe your bag got stolen. That's crazy. I've got extra stuff. I'm a really nice guy. My name's Ben. Life is good. Then Ben starts throwing in these subtle hints. Hey, maybe I'm not so nice. Maybe I know a little bit more about you than I've let on. Maybe, just maybe, I have your pack. And he does. Spoilers. And so he gives the pack back. He sets her all up. He feeds her. He makes sure she's got good shoes. He brings out a boombox and a crossbow, points it at her, and says, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to play this song. Once the song is over, I'm going to kill you. So you take that time to go ahead and get your run on. So he puts the boombox down, presses play, and this absolute banger of a song plays. I'm not quite sure what it is or who it is, but it's this sweet kind of funky rap song, and he just does a really good job, Taron Egerton, of enjoying the pump up song, but also kind of psyching himself up to go do a murder. So I thought it was a really interesting beginning, and Charlize Theron especially was like, wait, are you serious? What's going on? I'm like, yo, this song is playing, lady. You need to get moving. Eventually she does. She had a kayak from before that she happened to jump in. And, I'm not much of a kayaker, but I'm pretty sure a kayak would beat a human in a race. I mean, I know water depends on a lot of things, but the rivers in this were cooking pretty quick. I would take the person in the canoe over the person walking. But this is a movie, and somehow Ben catches up to Charlize Theron. I think they kind of have like a pepper spray moment, and he holds the crossbow at her, and I don't think much really happens there. It's a little tense. Oh, we do get where he's chasing her down. This is probably the best part in the whole movie. That's the only reason I want to make sure I mention it. Where she thinks she's away. Then she hears a noise and she looks over and she sees with the binoculars him kind of running. And so she tries to hide. Like, he hasn't seen me yet. And then she does the thing where she kind of peeks at her on the corners with the binoculars. And he's got this really creepy like pose that he does against the tree. And it's like, oh, this dude is spooky. This dude's evil. He's good. He knows what he's doing. This is not his first murder in the park, if you will. Pretty good beer. Thank you, Trailhead Canyon, for keeping me parched, or not unparched, hydrated, whatever you are. You're doing a great job while I talk here. So Sasha gets caught by Ben after his creepy tree thing. There is a part also where she's kind of using the binoculars. So it's all around here. Just follow me here, people. I'm a lone man doing this for the first time ever. She sees an empty canoe and she sees Ben butt naked doing rope swings. And it's kind of hot, dude. The guy's got muscles like all over the place. It's like, hey, give something to your boy. I could use a fraction of those muscles I didn't even know existed. But since she lost her kayak somehow along the way, my lady really is in on the kayak strategy, even though she just lost using it. So she goes towards the guy who's trying to kill her and towards the kayak and tries to untie it. That's how she gets caught. Just got it. And she steps in a bear trap, which I always imagined would be the most painful thing in the world. She does okay. She handles it like a champ. Granted, it is underwater, so I wonder if that slows the clamp, but it's still got to be painful, right? So she gets caught by that way. We learn more about Ben. He is kind of just living in the woods. I think we find his cannibal hideout here pretty quick. So I think when you have a character who's this absolute psycho, you obviously want to spend a lot of time with him and around him. So she gets caught early so we can spend that time with him because he's the best part of the movie. But I think this movie would have been better if she didn't get caught almost immediately. You know what I mean? It's like a few minutes in to this chase and she's caught. And the whole thing that he said is, hey, when I catch you, I'm going to kill you. But he doesn't do it. He ties her up, puts her on. I mean, she's basically tied up her hands most of the movie. And it's just so we can have these kind of interactions, which I thought was strange because I thought the whole thing was killing her. And then we go to the cannibal cave and we learn that, no, he's killing a ton of people, all the people in the ranger hut. Surprise, surprise. He's going to kill her. And the reason that he does it is because he's say it with me, everybody, cannibal. I just felt like a good spot to take a drink. So what he does is he's like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to bite you. And he mentioned this whole thing about cannibals shave their teeth down, but I've got really pretty teeth. He takes out dentures. He shows he's got the sharp teeth. So it's just a lot of back and forth here between these two of, hey, I'm going to eat you. And we learn more about him, like his relationship with his mother. And we learn that the beef jerky that he sells, I don't know if I mentioned he sells beef jerky, is made of humans. It's just kind of a strange back and forth. And Charlize Theron's kind of trying to like bond with them in Stockholm Syndrome kind of style. And then she ends up biting his ear off. Somehow that lets her get her hands down. And then she runs and sprints out of a water slide that just It's not a real water slide, guys. I mean, he didn't make this in his cannibal cave. It's a natural water slide, of course, but it just escapes. And it's like, if I'm building a cannibal cave, I'm not going to put it near a running river where people can jump out and escape very, very easily, while you barely have to be looking at them. So she escapes, but he's right behind her. She's still tied up. He latches on to her. So now, again, they're connected. And then they go down what I could only describe as the biggest waterfall anyone's ever gone down and survived in their entire life, let alone chained together. So they're diving down the waterfall. They survive, but our main man Ben hits his head, and he hits it pretty hard. You're seeing blood. It's underwater. And my first thought was, hey, this man's unconscious underwater. That's not good. Don't call me a doctor, but I think he should be conscious whilst underwater. He is not, but somehow he survives because Charlize Theron has to pull him up onto the creek. And she grabs a rock. They were starting to get into some of my beefs here, so you can, I'm starting to talk a little bit more angry. She grabs a rock, and instead of doing what any person, it makes sense, because you don't want to kill him because you're attached to him, right? Even though you could probably find a way to get out of being attached to him once he's dead. So she goes for his ankle, breaks his ankle, and then he turns around and backhands her really hard. Pretty. And those two characters go their separate ways because they are in so much pain that they can no longer go for it. So one guy gets his leg absolutely shattered, by a rock. And then our badass leading lady, who has climbed Troll Mountain or whatever it was called, and jumps off cliffs and kayaks and does all this badass stuff, takes one pretty hard backhand, and she is so hurt and so damaged that she rolls around for about 2 days. So didn't love that. Didn't love that one bit. At this point, I think Charlize Theron accepts that she's going to die because she just got a backhand. How is she supposed to, continue with a giant rock and a guy with a broken ankle next to her? And she starts confessing, I pushed too hard. He told me to go back. I said no. It's kind of my fault he died. I'm kind of a piece of shit. She starts realizing all this, important stuff she probably should have realized before she was being hunted by a cannibal. And then, let's see. They make the deal. The stupidest deal probably in movie history. Here's the deal. I shattered your ankle with a rock. You are going to get an infection. That's for sure going to happen, right? So what I'm suggesting is that you and I go over to that rock path and we climb up. I'm a hiker. I know all the knots. Basically, she pulls them up with a rope, a little pulley system. And then you'll be free. And then we could get you some help, And so Taron Egerton says, okay, you get me up that hill. I'll let you go. And then I'll be up the hill and I'll be okay and I'll survive. Terrible plan, because she is going to have to, again, I don't know if you know how a pulley system works, ladies and gentlemen, but one person is going to be dangling and the other person is going to have to hold them and pull them up. If I was a serial killer, I wouldn't let my victim or potential victim hold me in a pulley situation. That's all I'm saying. So they do this plan. Surprise, surprise. They're going up the mountain. She's got him in a vulnerable position where he's dangling there and she's got the rope in her hand. You'll never guess what she does. She lets him go. He falls to his death. Very similar to the love interest at the beginning. Maybe like a closing the door type situation on that event. But again, if I'm serial killing, never would find me in that situation. So she has let the killer die. She dropped him. She is now on the side of this mountain. And I forgot to mention, she now no longer has any climbing equipment because it went with our now dead cannibal. So she has to free climb the rest of this mountain on her own, badass style. She does. She makes it out. Someone finds her, and then she goes to the ranger station from the beginning and says, hey, all those dead people that you're looking for, I know where they are. And the guy who did it, he's probably dead. Not too far from here. And then she goes and buries or spreads Eric Baines' ashes, and that's the movie. So I know I did a little bit longer than I normally do or would do on the podcast. But again, it's just me. I wanted to chat with you all for a little bit. So I've got some beefs. We've got the story. We know what's going on. But let's get into the nitty gritty, as they call it. And I do have a few questions and just things that I want to discuss. So, the beef jerky. Let's get into it, right? Jenna's beef jerky, named after his mother. It's in the store. Uh, it's from the very beginning. It's like, hey, this isn't very good stuff. Like, I wouldn't feed it to my dog, but the people say it sells. So maybe there's something to that. And I think it's pretty obvious from the beginning that it's some kind of suspect meat, right? The packaging's a little iffy. Just everything about it. The dude's a little iffy. When we first meet him at his camp, he's like doing all his meat stuff, but it's like, where's the meat? Where's the bodies? Where's the cow? The cows, the pigs, or whatever it is you're making this jerky out of. That was a pretty big hint. And then the fact that this human jerky is just in the stores. What are we doing here? Just kind of weird. I know this dude's a creep, but that was just a step too far for your boy. Let's see. The movie, what else do I want to mention about it? There was one cool thing that Taron Egerton did. He had a trap when he's trying to, at the hunting part, the good part of the movie where he's trying to hunt her down. He does this thing where he has a video that he plays on his phone, and it sounds like just a regular old family, which we find out later he killed. But he uses that to lure him, turns up the volume, and they're like, oh, hey, family stuff, ha, ha, ha. And she hears that, and obviously, like moths to a flame, as they say. So I really like that trap. And again, Taron Egerton's character is very creepy and good and smart. It's once he gets her, and maybe she reminds him of the mom. There is that kind of weird connection. But he really just starts losing all of his murdering skills, is the best way to describe it. There is one part where he's like on top of her, choking her out. And right as she's about to die, her eyes are bulging, and you get the veins in her head. He lets her go. And it's like, maybe he hasn't killed someone that way before, but my dude's got a pretty massive body count. I know that's all the talk in the dating world these days. His body count is pretty high, and not the good kind. So why are we just letting this suffocation thing go? You had her. Mission accomplished. You could have more beef jerky, and you could eat this lady, no problem. Another thing that's kind of interesting about the eating of the people is I don't really know where it comes from, right? We learn that, when they're in Cannibal Cave, she talks about like, hey, I bet someone hurt you, like that's my guess. And he's kind of like, oh yeah. But what we find out is that he loved his mom, is what I got, and he loved her so much that he always wanted her to be with him. So he's not just eating anybody, at least that's not what it seems like. He ate his mom first because he loved her so much and needed mom 24/7. Then obviously we don't know about he ate a family, like they were hanging up in the thing. Like, so we don't know who else he's been eating, but it seems like he gets that same feeling with Charlize Theron, where he's so inspired by her, and maybe she has the traits that he doesn't, and that's why he wants to eat her. So if you're inspired by someone, try and eat them. And that's a beer in review. Let's see. I really think that's it as far as the movie goes. Yeah, that's it. I don't think there's really anything else that I am missing. I would like to talk a little bit about the actors themselves, because I think that this is a very different trajectory flick for both of these two, right? Charlize Theron has been in a ton of movies, right? We've seen her in the Fast and the Furious series. I know her from things like The Italian Job, The Road, Prometheus. That's my Charlize Theron. Obviously, she was in Monster, which was an awesome movie. Won her the best actress in a leading role, which is huge. But recently, I mean, what do you think? You out there listening, the first thing you probably thought of was Mad Max Fury Road. That was 11 years ago, right? Like, what has she been doing since then? A lot of voice work, like some guest spots. Like I said, she's kind of in these Fast and Furious. I think I saw that she's in another one of the franchise. She was in Multiverse of Madness. I don't know exactly where, but like she's in things. She's collecting some money, but it doesn't seem like she's really doing what she was or what we thought she was capable of post that Oscar win in 2003, I believe, for Monster. So she's back in a leading role, right? In this, she's not taking those guest spots. This isn't just a voice actress role, but it's not a good movie. So it's like, okay, maybe she can't be a lead and she can't lead this major motion picture. Maybe her stock's going down a little bit. But Taron Egerton, okay, we know him from the Kingsman series. We saw him in Tetris on this podcast, so shout out to him for that in that movie. And Elton John, obviously, Sir Elton John. I apologize. These are big roles. You know, these were back when people used to go to the movies. These movies got meat and seats, right? Maybe not Tetris, but definitely Elton John and Kingsman. And this is kind of a step back. You know, recently we haven't seen him in a lot either, I wouldn't say. And we've definitely never seen him in a role like this. I really, really liked the complete left turn for Taron Egerton. I would love to see him play a character like this in a movie that is good because he did such a good job. He did some damage to the bald community. I'm still, as you can see, my name says I'm still pro bald. But he really did us dirty on this movie. So, grow some hair or stay bald and just do a really good movie. So Taron Egerton, I think after this, trajectory up. I mean, he did a phenomenal job. And even though I didn't like the direction of the characters, the fact that, like, again, he didn't choke her out. She, fell victim to the worst backhand in history. There's a lot of things that were weird and awkward and didn't really flow and work for me as far as the story went. But his character and the way he did it, I thought was unbelievably great. So again, put him in roles where he can shine because gosh darn it, he shined even in a role where they're in a movie where maybe he shouldn't have. Okay. Oh, and then one more thing. This was shot on locations. Wales, I think, I don't know, New Zealand, maybe. Beautiful, beautiful shots. If I was Charlize Theron, I would have absolutely said yes to this movie because I'm sure she got paid pretty decent. And man, she's in some beautiful spots. So I love that. There was also a tense climbing scene. You probably see it on the cover if you see this movie on Netflix, where she's kind of climbing down under the rocks and he's kind of looking down in this crevice for her, and she's underneath him, kind of like Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits. But it's just, I don't think they did enough with it. I think that it is a very cool setting. Like the rocks are all wavy and it's a very cool crevasse. And the thought of her kind of hiding and having like a chase scene in these rocks is cool. But really all that's happened is she hides. He kind of looks down, he leaves. And then pretty shortly after she gets up and leaves, like everything's okay, when it's like, yo, he could be anywhere. You should be a little bit more careful. So I thought the rock scene was underwhelming. Okay, that is the movie. I think I got nothing else for my one-man show. Thank you so much for listening to 34 minutes of me talking about that movie. I'm going to have a sip of beer, and then we're going to get into the rest of our corners, the financials, the reviews. One of the boys did text in their reviews that I'm going to read to you guys. I don't even know what it says, so we're going to find out together. The budget. Oh, this is where I throw it to Luke, and usually he does a fantastic job. I don't know where he finds this information, but I'm going to try my best to make the dollars make sense. I found a website called Saturation. It looks like it's all artificial intelligence, as the kids say, but I'm going to go ahead and read off of it anyways. Basically, it looks like the budget was between 60 and 80 million. The project was greenlit in February of 2024, and this is pretty similar to the director's other budget restrictions, for lack of a better word. He's used to playing in this budgetary ballpark. As far as, this is a Netflix movie, so there was a very limited theatrical release, but I think that's just so it can make it award eligible, which good luck. But this is similar to movies they say as a premiere action film. It's close to like The Gray Man. It says The Woman in the Window, which I've never heard of. Prey was a Hulu movie, but I think they're similar to that is kind of what they were going for. As far as if that hit it or not, who the hell knows? Was pretty high on their top 10 charts, but again, that list could be bullshit. We don't really know for sure. But when I talk to people about this movie, a lot of people ask, "Hey, what's the movie this week? What are we watching?" And when I mentioned Apex, very few knew what I was talking about. And once they heard it, I was like, Apex. And I'm like, "Oh, I've never heard of it." It's like, "Oh, it's Charlize Theron, and she's a climber." And she, then people are like, "Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that trailer pop up in the background while it's on pause or whatever." So I haven't heard a lot of people watch it, so my guess would be a bad grade, but I don't give out grades when I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to give out a grade for that one. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go into something I do know a little bit more about. We are going to go into the beer corner. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me. I still didn't. There it is. Yeah, join me. I tried to time that out perfectly, but the internet did not participate. Tenaya Creek. We are drinking the Trailhead Canyon. And if you work at Tenaya Creek or you know anyone at Tenaya Creek, please tell them that their website is jacked up. I'm trying to read a little bit about the beer. There's a giant can in the middle, but thankfully I'm so smart I went about this open reading mode. When it came time to reimagine our packaging, we didn't toss the past aside. We looked back to the early bomber labels with 12-ounce cans and the desert trails that inspired it all, the Nevada outdoors. The landscape we call home still runs through every pore. This is your first look at our new 16-ounce lineup, starting with a fresh take on a local favorite, the Trailhead Canyon Pilsner. Same crisp, clean Pilsner, with a new look that carries our story forward. ABV coming in at 5.4%. That is the beer. And because I just talked about it, I'm salivating. I need a swig. If you're having a beer out there, join me. If not, take a swig of water. You probably need it. So that is the beer. The history of the beer is pretty interesting. It opened up in 1999 as a restaurant and brewery, which in my experience and my understanding is a great idea because food is what makes most of your money. Beer is not that much of a moneymaker, but the food is what you want to get people drunk and then want them to order the food. That's where you get your bills. But that was not the case for Tenaya Creek. They started in 1999 with a brewery and restaurant, but in 2008, they decided right here, brews over bites. They wanted to focus on their passion, just beer. So they got rid of their food and tried to expand the beer outside of the brewery. So, being on guest taps and all that fun stuff. In 2010, they expanded to get their first bottling line. So that allows them to sell their beer locally, gas stations and things like that. Enjoy Tenaya Creek at home. In 2015, they moved to a much bigger venue, tripled their brewing capacity, and they have a canning line, which is probably where this beautiful boy was canned. And they do have 28 taps, which is, God, you'd love to hear it. In 2023, they were purchased by the Beer Zombies family. I believe we've done Beer Zombies before on the podcast, but don't quote me on that. I'm just the one who's supposed to do all that. And they let them brew their own beer still. It's just kind of under the banner. I think it's similar to maybe Lagunitas and Heineken, or I don't think of any other examples. Just that. That's all I got. So that is the beer corner this week. Again, Tenaya Creek Brewing. You can follow them there on Instagram at Tenaya Creek, Tenaya. Tenaya. If I'm saying that wrong and I've been doing it the whole episode, I apologize. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I do have a little bit of bad news in my research, and the fact that I am a solo man this episode. We're not going to play rotten guesses. I will look it up and I will tell you what it is. Actually, you know what? Let's just guess. Who cares? I'm going to guess low, probably 60s. So I'll just say 60 for both. How's that? I guess when there's no one to play against, it's not as fun. But I was playing against you. I was playing against you, listener. So let me know if you beat me. I'm going to guess 60 for critics, 60 for audience. I'm going to pull it up right now as we speak. Apex, the 2026 movie, is coming in at a 66 on the critic meter and a 49 for audience. So I was off by 6 for the tomato meter and off by 11 on the audience score. So you wonderful listeners out there, please comment, because this is a lot of me talking, and it'd be cool if you guys talk back so I didn't feel like a complete idiot. So let me know how close you were on your guess. Oh, I should have rated the beer when I did the beer corner. You know what? There's a lot going on. So I'm going to say for the beer, review it. I'd say it's good. I wouldn't say that it's great. It's a 7. I'll go 7.5 because it's warm out. I'm liking the light beer. I enjoy the aftertaste. It's not terrible. So I'm going to say a 7.5. And because of that, I'm going to have a swig. Now, the movie, the part you've all been waiting for. Actually, you know what? I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to let Luke go first. Luke is not here this week because he just welcomed his 4th child into the world. So we are very, very happy for Luke. But where's your priorities, man? Come on. Sorry if you hear a little bit of typing. I forgot to do this earlier. Luke's review of the movie. I will pull out my text message and I will read it verbatim. I liked the general idea of this movie, but the execution lacked a little. Sounds like what I was saying earlier, isn't it? Just kind of felt like it didn't really try hard enough. I had fun with it overall, but I'm not going to be telling my grandkids about it. James McAvoy should have played the lunatic, and it would have slapped about 63% harder. It was 68 or 6.8 out of 10. Rotten Gresses, he said critic 64, so Luke would beat me. Good for him. Audience 74. 74 for audience. So he was off by quite a bit. If you out there lost to Luke, I would talk to someone, a professional probably. There are things I like about Luke's review. There are things I don't like. I do agree that the movie lacked execution. I don't disagree that James McAvoy probably could have played this better. We saw that in Speak No Evil. We've seen it in like Split and Glass, whatever it was. I think those are right. But again, as I mentioned, I thought Taron Egerton did a great job. So maybe that we would be a little bit of a disagreement on. But again, Luke is coming in at a 6.8. That's one of his. God, we've watched some bad movies. He gave The Green Knight a 4.5, which is criminal, and he gave his This Thing On a 6.5, which we both love stand-up comedy. So the fact that we gave that a 6.5, it's pretty telling. I'm going to echo, like I said, the things I've said the last 40 minutes on the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, this is almost a bad movie. It's almost a terrible movie, really. Like, I could see how someone could watch this and be like, yo, this is dog shit. Because it really is. But I liked Taron Egerton a lot. I liked the setup of the story a lot. I liked the real location shooting a lot. There are some parts that felt fake, like a lot of the waterfall stuff obviously was fake. There's a lot of stupid story stuff, but they put it in a beautiful location. When you give me a psychopath and you have him in the movie for this long, it's hard not to be, I don't want to say glued to the screen because I definitely wasn't, but there's something there. If you're a movie person, there's something here for you. It might not be a lot of things. It might only be one thing. And for me, that one thing was Taron Egerton. So that is what saved it for me being a bad movie. So I'm going to give it a 6, a flat 6, just on the borderline of bad. And again, if his performance would have been worse, I could have been a lot closer to terrible. but there's a lot of beauty in this movie. There's some good music. Again, Taron Egerton. Thought it was pretty solid. And that's the podcast. I hope I didn't bore you to tears with my my monologue here. If you liked it, thank you very much. I'd appreciate any kind words in the comments. And if you'd like to see Keith or Luke do this, that would be kind of fun to watch. So let us know. Maybe we could line up one of those. Unfortunately, I only had one beer because I spent so much time talking and not enough time drinking. But I usually do that when the boys are talking. And I just learned that right now. So I appreciate you all for joining me on this journey of episode 127 of A Beer in Review. I probably should say this at the beginning, but comment, like, subscribe, share, really anything you could do to help out the podcast. The reason that we are doing this solo show is because we've seen you guys listen when we do the show every week. So we're going to do it for you every week as long as you guys keep showing up. Thank you all very much, and we will see you for next week's episode of A Beer in Review. Ladies and gentlemen, cheers.